What if I told you that you weren't stuck because you weren't trying hard enough or working long enough or doing your meditations, affirmations, visualizations, and or any of that stuff? And in fact, it could be from this one particular thing, and that is attachment, and particularly attachment to outcomes. See, in this video, we're going to be exploring how when we set off on a new quest to achieve something, to experience something, we have a tendency sometimes, especially myself, to get in our own way and do it in such a way that introduces so much pressure and negative emotions to the point where either I don't achieve the particular thing or I achieve the particular thing and then it's not enough because I didn't get the experience that I was looking for, so then I have to set another quest or another thing to experience that particular thing. Versus coming at it from a place of peace and flow and allowing and having that experience come in and experiencing in such a way that you never even thought possible, you couldn't even conceptualize possible, and it's done in such a way that you're just feeling complete satisfaction, completion in what you're doing. And from there, you get to experience exactly and more of what you set out to do, and you then continue building your life from there. So there's two ways of operating, and I'd like to explore how that actually happens. So one day, you're walking around, you're doing something, whatever it is that you're up to, you get this desire to experience something, to accomplish a particular goal. That's awesome, because that desire means that you have now you've started a movement internally. Like, okay, I have a preferred reality that I want to experience. And what you're doing is you're focusing your attention into this preferred reality. And if that's all we did and we were able to achieve that particular desire, oh, life would be so easy. It would be absolutely awesome. And there'd be no point of watching this video or me making even this video. So there you go. But what oftentimes happens is that we get this little thing that sneaks in there called attachment. Okay? So attachment comes in now. And what happens when you start to attach attachment to a particular desired outcome is that you start to increase pressure within. You start to up your standards on how things need to get done. So what happens, the first thing that I find that taps into is that you increase the importance of the actual event unfolding, of you actually acquiring that particular thing. And as you amp up importance, what happens is you increase the potential energy that happens, and it becomes this excess energy, and it creates this imbalance within. And with this imbalance, nature likes to balance things out. There's going to be a countering balance that's going to try and counter that, and you start to create all this kind of turmoil. And what happens with that increased pressure, you start to excessively think about the very thing. You start to say, oh my God, this needs to happen, I need to go do it this way, I need to do this. You start to speed up a lot more. You start to introduce a lot more panic. Then what happens is that neediness has a tendency to roll in. I need to do it this way in order for this thing to succeed. I need to acquire this particular thing. And neediness, what it does is it signals to the universe that there is a lack somewhere. And so the more you focus and shift your attention onto neediness, the more you're signaling to the universe, hey, I don't have this. Send me signals, send me experiences to validate my belief that I don't have this. And so the universe will comply and be like, okay, here you go, mister. You want to feel, or Mrs., you want to feel like you have a lack of something. Here's evidence of that in your life here. Here's an evidence of your life there. And then even if you do start making some potential progress, like this isn't enough. This isn't that. And then as that starts to build, as that continues, oftentimes what I've had is force come in. Now I try to force things to happen. I'm going to force it to mold it in this particular way and this. And all what happens is that you started off, your initial intent, your initial desire, your initial intention is now, yes, it's still there, but it's been piled on with all of this excessive pressure, this turmoil of energy, this neediness vibe, this like goblin energy. I need to get this thing done. And you get this force that actually happens, this force that it's like, I need to force this very thing. And what happens is that, yes, you can actually accomplish your particular goal. This is the crazy part. You can actually accomplish your particular goal operating from this way, and you can actually get there. But instead, what I'm going to be showing with you and sharing my experience is that there's another way of achieving this thing, and that is in the way of the actual opposites of this, which would be shifting importance into allowing things to happen. Okay, so the fundamental principle here that we're talking about is that detach yourself from the particular outcome. Have the intention to finish this particular goal. And oftentimes this is where internal trust comes in. Is like, well, if I just have the intention to accomplish something, I'll never actually get things done. Au contraire, my friend. What happens is that when you have an intention of a particular thing with no reliance and pressure around a particular outcome, you're actually more inspired to flow through life and try things differently. And by trusting the universe that things will actually unfold for you and will actually bring things for you to actually be able to accomplish that in a way that you've never even thought before. That's the beautiful part of life. But we oftentimes, especially myself, what happens is that I go in there and I'm like, no, the universe doesn't know any better. How can it know any better? I am 33 years old. I have all the experience in the world. I know everything perfectly. So in order for me to experience this, I need to do X, Y, Z in this particular way. And I was miserable before, but it's how I got shit done. So I need to be miserable again. But I'm happy. And so that's essentially the language that happens. So what you're doing is you first flip into this allowance. Allow the universe. Allow it to bring events to you in such a way that the universe operates in subtle cues. And it'll cue you into particular areas. And I'll share an example to show and to cement this particular thing. But it'll cue you and you're like, okay, now I'm going to pivot here. Now I'm going to pivot here and pivot here. And then you look in hindsight and you're like, wait, if I didn't pivot in this particular moment, I would have never achieved what I've actually achieved. It's actually beautiful. Neediness, shifting that. When you shift it from neediness, you have willingness and wholeness. And that means that you're coming from a place that, hey, I'm whole and complete no matter what. Even if I attain this goal or not, I still have that very thing that I was actually looking to accomplish. So I don't know, if I was looking to build $1 million business, for example, and behind the intentions of that is to feel grateful, fulfilled, and complete. Well, you can feel the grateful fulfillment and completeness ahead of time. And what you're doing is you're operating from this particular space. And when you're operating in that particular space, well, that's exactly what you're going to attract. So you're now operating instead of a neediness of lack, I don't have anything, you have it all. You are already experiencing that very thing. And lastly is you shift force into flow. And so from here, you're just flowing through life as it's guiding you and sending you those cues. Like we were mentioning for the first one, you're allowing life to come through, you start to flow. And this is where life just brings you some juicy experiences and how you get to experience some awesome things. So the way actually to do that is to follow some of these particular things. First off is paying attention to your language. Instead of, I have to do this, I want to do this, I will do this, you shift it to, I am doing this. I've decided to do this. I'm choosing to do this. What that's doing, it's actually putting you into the present moment, into the present reality of what's happening, giving you that internal power and moving forward. Now you might say, well, that's just one sentence. That stuff doesn't work. Well, think about it this way. How many sentences and how many words pass through your mind every single day? That's a lot of thoughts, a lot of words, a lot of sentences. And especially when you start to enter into a place of, let's say, panic, which is like, this is just fear, like on a very unhealthy, I find, spectrum, where you start to panic and now your mind is racing. And it's racing and it's filled with things like, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to go there, oh my God, I need to do this, I need to get this done, I need to get this done. And what you're doing is you're stacking. You're stacking all of these emotions and words and what's going on over time. Now, multiply that by the days in the week that you're doing this, and then weeks by months. And now you've got this state, this entire way of being that's just so it's like a pressure cooker of negativity that's just boiling you down. And so what helps is actually becoming conscious and aware of the words that you're using. And as small as that might seem in the beginning, I can't tell you, I can't stress enough how many times I've had it in my life where I've just switched the language around and I've completely had different results. Next comes releasing counter intentions. And so what this is that I can't do this, I can't amount this, there's no way I'm going to get this thing done. You say, I'm on my way to getting this thing done. I have already completed this and I'm only waiting for it to catch up to me. It's pretty cool. And third is to detach yourself from the very outcome of what's happening. So like we're mentioning here is that, look, I have an intention to accomplish this. And if what happens, happens. How it happens, I don't have to worry about the how. I don't have to worry about the whys and the hows and all that stuff. The what's in the hows. All I have to worry about is going and doing my very thing, showing up, taking the action that I have that's in alignment with my intention, and just allowing everything to flow into this particular way, and allowing myself to just guide myself through. And this is how you shift from importance to allowing, from neediness to willingness and wholeness, and from force into flow. You see, this is what happened to me years ago when, and actually how I met this girl. And so I used to date girls like obsessively. So it was like, I jump in from one long-term relationship into another long-term relationship. And I think I have like a month or two of gap between these relationships. And the reason for that was because I had this huge fear inside of, and a whole host of other things. I was very insecure, and where I was terrified of being alone. I was terrified of not having a girlfriend, because what that meant to me at the time is that meant to me that I was a loser. It meant that I was completely worthless. It meant that I was just not amounting to anything. And I was willing to do absolutely anything to not feel that. And so I would just jump from relationship to relationship, whether they were in alignment with me or not. And I also had the mindset that, there's, let's say, a list of 10 things that that I'd love to have in a woman. And if she just covers 2 or 3 or 4 of them, I'm freaking awesome. This is how I thought how life worked. If you can just get some or most of what you want, you're actually doing really good. And this is what I settled for. And so life brought me into these relationships that were not in alignment, were not in the particular thing that were good for me or for the other person. And it just ended up not working out. And after this particular relationship that I had, a friend told me, and she dared, she said, Mlad, do not get into a relationship for 1 year. And this terrified me more than anything before, because these emotions were so strong inside of me. I gave them so much of my energy and my power, and so much of my identity was oriented around these particular emotions, that this is one of the scariest things that I've actually done in my life. And I've done some crazy things, but this right here, being alone, was just, anyways. Throughout the year of being alone, what happened, unknowingly, I was starting to tap into this. I had this intention, I had this desire where I got to feel, I'm actually feeling a little bit more self-love right now. And in feeling that, I had this vision where I was like, I'm actually ready to meet someone and start dating again. I'm okay if that happens tomorrow. I'm okay if I have to wait another couple of years, but I'm waiting for that person to walk into my life, and for us to actually meet and go from there. But not just, now I didn't just collapse and starfish and just wait for that person to come by. No, I was still going out there. I was still meeting people. I was still putting in all the action and the effort to it, but I was okay with the particular outcome just coming to me in whatever flow. And what that gave me power to decide. There was a lot of girls that I just said no to and said, hey, we're not in alignment. We're not in I didn't say in those words. I was like, hey, like, we're not a good fit. This isn't going to work out. And honestly, and vice versa. And what was cool was that we got to spend time, and I didn't waste their time. They didn't waste their time. I didn't waste my time. And it ended up being absolutely beautiful, because what happened is, I had this urge to really look inside of these feelings, and I had this desire to really understand what love was. And I ended up at a personal development seminar, and this was like years ago, I think now, or 7 years ago. It's about 6 years ago, yeah. And this is when I started to really start my journey into this personal development and self-inquiry and transformations within. And in this particular place, I said, I'm not meeting any women here. I'm only focused on self-development. I'm only focused on that. And when you let go of the particular outcomes, when you let go of these particular things happening, life has this way of just synchronizing these events for you and placing it in such a way that you would have never thought to even do that, but it's in such a way that it's so much, in hindsight, it's so much better than you could have ever even imagined. So in walked me within this personal development event, and there was a lot of women there, and honestly, they were absolutely beautiful. But I decided, no, I'm not engaging, I'm not talking, I'm not doing anything. And it wasn't until I crossed path and I locked eyes with this one particular girl where I was like, no, focus. And initially I was like, oh yeah. Then I was like, focus, no, and I kept going. And here's the synchronicity of the life. This is what's absolutely interesting, is that there was about 400 or 500 people at this particular event, okay? And we would take regular breaks. It was a 3-day event, and it was long days. I think it was like 10 or 12 hours. And we would take these regular breaks. And during these regular breaks, people would just funnel down the staircase, and they would go outside, get some fresh air. Well, it just so happened that during this one particular break, I think it was on day 2 or something like that, that I happened to be the only one out of those 400, 500 people to be walking down the staircase, and she happens to be the only one out of those 400 or 500 people to be walking up the staircase, and happened to be walking in a particular way in which I couldn't resist to open up my meat flaps and say something along the lines of like, I love your flowy thing. It looks like a cape, or you're like some sort of superhero, like what you're getting. I don't know, something along those lines. And this is the moment where she opened up her beautiful, beautiful lips and she started to speak. And you got to understand that she has this slight French accent, and not the Canadian accent. I'm talking about the real raw French, like from France type accents. And that for a Balkan like me is just, it just melts us. It makes us go crazy. So she opened her mouth, she started talking. The only thing that was going through my mind was like, oh shit. I mean, I don't remember anything she said, honestly. I think I was incapable of understanding absolutely anything. I was gone, and everything that I said of like, I'm not doing this, went right out the window. And long story short, we've been dating since. She's now currently my wife, and we now have a 6-month-old son together. So it worked out absolutely amazingly. And what happened was that I just stepped out of the way, and I trusted the universe. I trusted that it was going to bring it to me in a particular way. I was still putting in the action. I was still showing up to these particular things. And it's so funny, I never would have thought that I would meet a particular person to date at a personal development seminar, but I did. And FYI, sure, that sounds like a great place to meet people. You know, in hindsight, great. If that helps you, sweet, awesome. But so what I'm really showcasing here is that if you have a desire right there, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and harness that, and just and really pay attention to your attachment to that particular outcome, because attaching is really, you can experience it. You can experience it both ways. You can attain that particular goal. But one way you can attain it from this like pressure cooker of like negative emotions, unrealistic expectations, and actually even not even achieving the goal. And the other one is just this flow of just allowing, and just this internal peace where you get even more fulfillment from even doing even less and achieving that particular goal. So with that, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.